What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Going the Distance podcast presented by ImmaculateSports.com. Twitter is at ImacSports.
Instagram is also at Max Sports.
TikTok, YouTube, Immaculate Sports. It's episode 256, and we're back. Figured we didn't need another episode after that Friday night trade deadline, so plenty to talk about. A little recap in MLB. We're getting down to it, about a month and a half left, and also a little fantasy football, Kyle.
Yeah, we're going to be doing some sleeper rankings. Just some guys that we think might do a bit better than what ESPN says they are going to be this year. That was our baseline that we used for that, but we'll get more into that in a little bit. Power rankings as well too will be fun because I looked. It's actually the first time that we've done power rankings in about a month, so we're really going to get to do a full rankings, readjust here a little bit after the trade deadline, how teams have performed since then, and some of the storylines before that as well too. Obviously, player, pitcher, rookie of the week as well too, as we'll get into in a little bit. But I'll let you go ahead and start us off with the openers.
Yeah, the best thing I saw this weekend was the first preseason week, specifically the Jets. They went 30-10, but that's not as important as all the other stuff. The big thing here is everybody stays healthy. It was great. The starters got a drive. The offensive line dominated the Packers starters, and it's just good to know that we're coming with some more aggression this season. You know, our D line wanted to fight everybody on the Packers, and to me, it shows discipline because they didn't. First of all, other than Michael Clemens, he got a penalty, and Aaron Glenn took his ass right out of the game. But that's the thing, man. I felt like Saleh was a little soft when it came to that stuff, and it's just a whole new attitude. We're going to pound the rock, and hopefully teams aren't going to want to play us. So great start for Justin Fields and company.
Yeah, my opener is going to be about a prospect that I've started to become aware about for the A's. Halfway through the year, MLB Pipeline likes to re-rank the top 30 prospects on each team, the top 100 prospects in all of baseball. And from there, you can kind of get to see how each of your prospects have been performing and what, the quote-unquote experts like to think about them. And I'm actually going to talk about a dude that doesn't rank that highly in the A's system. Number 26 ranked prospect, Edgar Montero, who's in the Dominican Summer League right now, only 18 years old, a switch hitting shortstop, 6'2", 190 pounds as of right now. But he's been going off in the Dominican Summer League, and he's been posting some of the best numbers out of anybody in all of that league on the American and the National League side as well, too. He's posted a 26% walk rate, which is, I believe, like the second or third highest in the league. He has 9 homers in a league that doesn't have really any homers. I think it's like second or third there. 184 WRC plus, so that means he's 84% better than league average right now in the Dominican Summer League. And something that I like to look at is just kind of some of the batted ball stuff. In the DSL, you don't really get to, see launch angle or exit velocity or bat speed or stuff like that that kind of give you a more definitive like underbelly of what a prospect is. But we do get to see, fly ball pull, stuff like that. And he's posted a 55% pull right now, which I really like, at a 49.5% fly ball rate as well, too. So if you're pulling the ball in the air, that usually means you're going to drive in some runs. We see that with, namely, Isaac Paredes is like the poster child for this exact type of thing where you just pull the ball in the air and it works out for you. But it always typically tends to help players that can do that over not being able to do that. And Edgar Montero in his first full year, it looks like in the DSL is having a really good year. Hopefully next year we'll see him stateside, maybe in low A or high A, and he can potentially continue to climb up that A's prospect system because who doesn't like having a shortstop switch hitting Dominican dude, 6'2", it's like the poster boy for prospects in the MLB. So, hopefully Edgar turns into something because he
Future Stockton legend.
Yeah, perhaps. But also he could just turn out to be a bum once he comes stateside. That's always how things go. You're not really too sure. I think that's why he's not ranked too highly right now, like nationally or anything like that. Obviously, he's not even close to the top 100 prospects. So just a name to watch. Baron Graffs has him ranked as 16, which is probably a bit more reliable than Pipeline, but yeah, maybe moving up in the A system over the next couple of years. We'll move off of that, though, and we'll get into our player pitcher rookie of the week. There's some good choices for all three of these awards. Who'd you end up going with for player of the week?
I have an honorable mention for Junior Caminero. He had 505 homers last week. Amazing. But Shohei Ohtani was right behind him. 9 for 19, 4 homers, not to mention his start against St. Louis. 4 innings, 1 run, 8 strikeouts. I think he's got to be pretty close to taking those training wheels off. So he's going to get my player of the week.
Yeah, Shohei Ohtani's getting my player of the week as well, too. I actually don't think I've given him too many players of the week this year. It feels like less than previous years, but
For
still a
sure.
ridiculous week. 9 for 19, like you said, 4 homers, double, 5 RBIs, 5 walks, a stolen base. And then that started on the mound where he went 4 innings and had 8 Ks, only allowing 1 earned run. Uh, he's going to join Barry Bonds as the only 4-time MVP here soon. And that's going to be pretty cool to see because this guy is once in a lifetime, once in a generation, once in a sport type player in Shohei Ohtani. Now on to pitcher of the week.
Yeah, a lot of great options here too, but only one guy took a no-hitter into the ninth. That was Gavin Williams of Cleveland in Citi Field, and the final line ended up being 8 2/3, 1 hit, which was a solo shot from Juan Soto, but he had 6 strikeouts, 4 walks, 126 pitches. Couldn't quite get the complete game, but what a game from Gavin Williams, keeping those Guardians alive.
Yeah, Gavin Williams, definitely a good one there. His performance, I didn't really get to watch it all. But the 126 pitches to see when he was coming out was pretty cool. You don't see a lot of guys go that deep into games
Yeah.
anymore, even with they have the no hitter. Even having the leash to be able to go that far. Also, Edward Cabrera, really good performance. 8 innings, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 11 Ks, and perhaps his best start of his young career. So those two guys pitch of the weeks for me. On to rookie of the week.
Yeah, Chase Burns had 10 strikeouts again, but he wasn't the only rookie to do it this time. The A's get yet another rookie chosen here. This time is Jacob Lopez, who's had a fantastic second half. And against Washington, he goes 7 2/3, 3 hits, no walks or runs, and 10 strikeouts. So I had to give him the nod over Chase Burns, even though Chase Burns has been one of the best prospects we've seen this season.
Yeah, my rookie of the week as well too is going to be Jacob Lopez. Sent a ton of career highs in this game. 7 2/3 innings pitched, only 3 hits allowed, no runs, 10 Ks. I think it was like 114 pitches as well too, partially because of that 17 pitch battle with Nathaniel Lau late in that one. But the biggest one for him, I think, is the 0 walks. This is a guy that we've seen. Obviously, for the A's, we get to see him a bit more than pretty much any other team. But something that he struggles with is getting deep into games because of some uncompetitive pitches, losing batters in deep counts, and to see him lock in start to finish in a game and have no walks was pretty damn cool. So Jacob Lopez has been a great story for the A's this year, starting tonight actually as well too. Hopefully gets to continue his great season against his former team in the Tampa Bay Rays.
Everybody's a former Ray.
Exactly. You're either a former Ray or a former A.
Yes.
It feels like. Moving on, though, we're getting into our power rankings. Like I said earlier, first time that we've done this since actually July 15th, so not quite a month, but getting there. So we really get the full shift here. Every 2 weeks is sometimes a bit much, but once a month might be the happy spot for power rankings. Any teams outside of the top 15 that you want to talk about before we get into?
I didn't really do the best job of tracking where I would have had them 2-3 weeks ago, but I know that Tampa Bay was a team I hinted at last week that probably wouldn't be here. They're not.
Yeah. Tampa Bay was number 12 for me last time we did this. They're off the list. And the Giants were number 14 for me, hanging on to a spot. Here, they do not hold on to a spot. Moving into number 15, though.
Yeah, we'll start it off with the Cincinnati Reds. The Reds are still alive in the NL wildcard, and I'm not sure how much longer the lineup can keep up this pace. They don't really walk a lot. They don't hit the ball out of the ballpark, but they get on base just enough for that rotation to carry them. So they're still up here in the top half of the league for now.
Yeah, Cincinnati Reds have shockingly been the number 15 team for me for like the last 2 months. They haven't moved at all, stay in that same spot. They go 12-11 during this stretch. Post the ninth best ERA out of any team in the MLB, which is tough to do in that ballpark. They had Miguel Andujar. Besides that, not really too much. I guess Brian Hayes, but he's Brian Hayes. So Cincinnati stays at number 15. Can't write them off yet, but they definitely don't look like a team that's going to be hoisting the trophy come the end of October. Number 14.
At 14, I have the Texas Rangers. And even though it hasn't been a great stretch for Texas, they have some stars. They have postseason experience. They have a rotation with a very high upside. And they're just a few games behind the wild card spot, so I'm not going to count them out. Not a great first start from Merrill Kelly, but there's so much firepower. Evaldi, Jacob deGrom, Jack Leiter's been great. I think there's a chance still.
Yeah. Texas is also my number 14. They were unranked for me last time. They go 13-10 in this stretch, post the second best ERA in all of baseball at 3.39. And then they have the top three in the rotation that you can trust come postseason with deGrom, Evaldi, and Merrill Kelly. The lineup, has been streaky throughout the year. But I think they got some names in there that you might be able to trust a bit more than, I don't know, Cincinnati or Cleveland or somebody like that. So Texas, number 14. Number 13.
At 13, I got one of the teams that's struggling the most right now. It's the New York Mets. Probably the biggest drop off, and I didn't calculate it, but they're definitely got to be. They were in everybody's top 6 probably a month ago, and they just lost 7 in a row, 1-9 out of 10. They're down right next to Cincinnati in the standings with 63 wins, and they just got so many issues. And it's not even just the pitching. We saw Frankie Montas has moved to the bullpen, but it's the offense too. They're just not scoring enough runs, so I just don't trust them to be in the top 10.
Yeah. Number 13 is where I have the Cleveland Guardians. They posted 15-7 record during this stretch, moving them from an unranked spot to number 13. Have tied for the 4th best ERA in the league, the 8th best WRC plus in the league as a team. So both sides working for Cleveland I believe they have the 2nd best record in baseball since, we last did our power rankings. So Cleveland started back up. Number 12.
Yeah, number 12 is where I got Cleveland. I always had a feeling they weren't just going to roll over because that's not how Stephen Vogt rolls. And, this pitching staff's taken a beating this season for a lot of different reasons, but they just ripped off 8 in a row, 8 out of 10. They're just one game behind the Yankees, who we'll talk about soon. They're not having the best run either. So shout out to Cleveland. And I'm very happy that I never dropped them. They were my team that was 15 every single week. So now they get a big boost up here, +3.
Boston is going to be my number 12 team right now. They moved down 2 spots, partially because of their trade deadline, but they do go 12-10, post the 7th best ERA in baseball during this stretch, which is big for them because the ERA has kind of been a problem for them in the first part of the year. Since then, they've locked it in. Again, some more consistent starts from anybody not named Garrett Crochet, and that goes a long way for you when beginning part of the year, you really didn't have anybody sure except for him. Number 11.
At number 11, it's the New York Yankees. I just shouted them out. I actually have them lower than Boston because they've been one of the worst teams in baseball in the second half, and it goes far beyond the roster, the additions. Not to mention the relievers they picked up are just not getting the job done. Doval kind of snapped out of it, but everybody, Jake Bird's been really hard to watch lately. Does not throwing any strikes. But overall here, you got a big problem in managing the game. That's a big part of baseball. It doesn't get talked about. I'm worried for Aaron Boone's job. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. I'm going to a New York team as well for my number 11. This is the Mets so for me, and they moved down 3 spots. They go 8-13 during this stretch, plus a bottom 5 WRC plus as a team, which is the thing that you thought would be the strongest part for the Mets. You could understand if their pitching from the beginning part of the year wasn't holding up come mid-August and maybe needed to do some reshuffling. But their offense, Soto, Lindor, Alonso, Nimmo, like all these dudes you expect to just kind of be consistent throughout. And they've fallen off the past month or so. So the New York Mets moved down 3 spots and are now outside of the top 10 for me. Number 10.
At number 10, I got the Boston Red Sox, just 1 spot over their rivals here. 2 games above them. They lost 3 in a row, but overall in the second half, I like what they've done. They keep Jaron Duran, and even though they don't have Rafi Devers, it seems like their lineup is deeper somehow. So I'm not going to write them out yet. 4.5 behind the Blue Jays. Anything can happen in the East, man.
Yeah. Number 10 is going to be where I slot the Yankees. They only moved down one spot despite going 10-13. They post a bottom 5 ERA, a bottom 7 WRC plus. And why I'm not moving them down like 4 or 5 is partially because they just weathered the storm without Aaron Judge for a couple of weeks. And while it didn't look good, now that he's back, I'm expecting them to tick up a little bit more at this point. I know the bullpen and all the stuff has been honestly hilarious to watch from an outsider's fan perspective, to just watch all the Yankee fans crumble. But I don't know. I have a bit more faith in them because I look at the names, I look at the guys on the roster, and you could still see them locking in and posting a good end of August, solid September. Maybe not winning the division. I feel like that might be a little bit tough at this point, but definitely sneaking into a top-tier wildcard spot. Number 9.
Number 9, I got the Houston Astros. Despite all the troubles they've had with injuries, they're still sitting in first place, a game up on Seattle. Kind of playing 500 ball over the past month or two, but the pitching is ridiculous. I saw something on Twitter that was just naming all the random guys that Houston's had over the past 10 years that just turned into a superstar on the mound. And that's been the real story for them. One of the best pitching staffs in all of baseball, 465 runs against.
Number 9, moving into the top 10 here, or into the single digits, is going to be where I saw Toronto. They moved down 2 spots despite going 14-9 because of a bottom 6 ERA and a pitching staff that really hasn't done that well over the past, month or so. But their offense has definitely held its weight. 149 WRC plus is first in all baseball during that stretch. So that's what's won them some games, but I don't know. For some reason, I just feel like that offense, they got some names, but I don't like the back half. And I think the middle of the order outside of Vlad, Bichette, and Barger could crumble come October. On to number 8.
Number 8, I got the Seattle Mariners just above Houston, even though they're behind in the standings right now because they're on fire. 7 in a row, 9 out of 10. Cal Raleigh is back, mashing the ball. 45 homers now. Gilbert's back. George Kirby's back. They're really humming right now. Randy Rosarina has been one of the best players in baseball in the second half.
Number 8 for me is where I slot the Houston Astros. They moved down 5 spots, which is a bit shocking. Only 11-12 during this stretch, but I think the biggest thing for me is I still can't see a postseason rotation with these guys. Christian Javier just came back yesterday for the first time in the season. Who knows if his arm is going to remain healthy for a month and a half and be able to give you some valuable postseason innings. Outside of Hunter Brown and Framber Valdez, I just don't see another starter right there with that group. And I know Carlos Correa on the other side has really put up some numbers in his first week and a half of being back home in Houston, but I don't trust that either to last long term. And I am, this has bitten me in the past so many different times, but I don't trust the Astros right now compared to some of these other teams in the league. On to number 7.
Number 7, I got the Chicago Cubs, 67 wins, but it's been kind of rough for them. They're still scoring runs. I feel like they're gonna really miss out on grabbing another elite starter when it comes to playoff time, postseason time. But hey, they're still here. Who knows what could happen to Milwaukee? We'll get to them. But Chicago's going to be in the postseason. They're going to be in the top 10. I just have dropped them down slowly throughout the weeks.
And number 7 for me is also going to be where I slot the Chicago Cubs. They moved down 2 spots. They go 10-11 during this stretch. And again, kind of just an underwhelming deadline. Some of these other teams have moved ahead of them in a super competitive National League. I think it might be tough to find a scenario where the Cubs, unless they get ridiculously hot with the lineup in October, find their way into the World Series because of all these other teams are just so much more complete than them. Number 6.
At number 6, I got Toronto here. It's hard to ignore what they've been doing here. 69 wins is amazing, but kind of like you said, I don't think I would ever pick them to win a playoff series, even against teams in their division. So that's going to drop them down a little bit here. But hey, it's exciting. You like that as soon as they start paying guys, they start winning, start leading the division. That's what it's all about. I just not sure if this is the squad they're going to do it with. Maybe if some of those pitching prospects panned out, I would have been more likely to move them up. I don't know. There's another wild card team that I'll talk about that I just trust a little more.
No. Number 6 is where I slot the San Diego Padres, the biggest riser out of anybody in this group. They move up 7 spots, post the third best ERA in baseball, sixth best WRC plus in baseball, go 15-8 during this stretch. And we know that they had a very busy deadline, adding Mason Miller, Nestor Cortez, Ryan O'Hearn, Freddie Fermin, Ramon Laureano. The names go on and on for San Diego. They're geared up for October. And they're in a spot now that if their starter gives them 5 solid innings and it's 3-2 come the 6th inning, you're going to have a really tough time putting up a run against them in the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th because of the arms that they're throwing at you. So I would not want to play San Diego in a playoff series. I'll tell you that. Number 5.
Yeah, number 5 is where I got San Diego. That was that wild card team I was talking about. Just like you mentioned, talk about a team gearing up for October. That's kind of the opposite of Toronto here. And Ramon Laureano already being one of the biggest moves. And that was maybe not a throw-in, but just to make sure you got that extra guy in the Ryan O'Hearn deal too. Yu Darvish is back. King and Cease are having great second halves and a great stretch. Like you said, 7 wins out of 10.
Number 5 for me is where I slot the San Diego Padres, the Seattle Mariners, close name-wise. They move up 6 spots for me, and that's also partially because of the deadline that they had. They post the 6th best ERA in baseball during this stretch. They go 15-8 and really feel back to being the Seattle Mariners pitching-wise. Earlier in the year, dealt with a lot of injuries, a lot of inconsistencies. Now it feels that they, have Gilbert locked in. Brian Woo's been there all year. Luis Castillo's been great. George Kirby's back to being George Kirby. They're still without Bryce Miller, but those 4 guys alone, you feel pretty damn confident when you got any of those 4 guys out there. The bullpen's great, and the lineup, even though Eugenio Suarez has kind of not done much in his short stint back in Seattle, the rest of the lineup feels like it's hitting. And Seattle could very legitimately be the team that's representing the American League once we talk about the World Series in a couple of months. Number 4.
At 4, I got the Detroit Tigers. Maybe upset if you thought they should be a 1 or 2 after what they did in the first half, but still, the reason I'm keeping them here in the top 4 is because I trust this lineup a lot more than I do Seattle and Houston and Boston and Cleveland. So I'm okay with what's happening. You still got Tarek Skubal, a guy that you might have to face once or twice. You never know with that guy in a postseason series. I'm okay with it. I think they're just sliding a little bit, and it's not the sign of something to come.
Number 4 is where I select the Philadelphia Phillies. They don't move at all in my rankings. Do another, month stretch of Philly baseball, going 14-8, posting the 10th best ERA in baseball and the 5th best WRC plus. They didn't have the loudest deadline outside of Johan Duran. They didn't really get the big bat that some people were looking for. Man, they're deep. They're good. They play, all 3 phases as far as defense, pitching, offense as well too. Pitching, both sides of it, rotation and bullpen. And one of the most complete rosters in all of baseball, and that's why they've stuck at a top 5 mark for the majority of the year. Number 3.
At number 3 is where I got the Philadelphia Phillies, and I never gave up on those Phils. They've been right around this range for me all season because I just feel like this roster is so much deeper than the Mets. And look what happened. 8-2 over their last 10. They got a big lead in the East once again. And that rotation is something you can't forget about when you're talking about World Series contenders. These guys have all been here before. And I think they're a legit option to try to take down the Dodgers, too, because of that.
Number 3 is where I slot the Detroit Tigers. They move down 1 spot for me. They go 10-13 during this stretch, posted bottom 10 WRC plus. But Detroit's fine. They are still so high in these rankings because of how good of the first half that they had. They're able to weather a month stretch where they play under 500 baseball and still be the number one team in the American League. It feels like, the only two teams from the American League in my top 7 kind of shows you how wide open it feels in the American League right now, and how unsure and how little of I guess like a juggernaut or something like that in the American League is right now compared to the NL, where you got the Brewers, Dodgers, Phillies, Padres. Detroit's my highest ranking American League team right now at 3. On to number 2.
And number 2 is where I got the Dodgers, 5-5 over their last 10, but it feels like they get another guy back every single night. Snell and Glasnow have been great ever since coming back, and even Mookie's hitting the ball hard again. So it's just a matter of time before they return to normal. But I feel like after I took away their number 1 spot at the mid-season rankings, they haven't really earned it yet, so that's why I have them at 2.
Yeah, the Dodgers, my number 2 team as well, too. They moved down 1 spot. They post a top 5 ERA and a top 7 WRC plus, yet they go under 500 during this stretch, 10-12. Kind of interesting there. Kind of, makes me believe that the Dodgers are going to be quite all right when it comes down to the end of it. Like you said, they're starting to get healthy again. Mookie Betts starting to look better as well, too. I trust the Dodgers because they've been there before and have done it before so many different times. So they're at number 2 and not at number 1, because this number 1 team has just been fucking ridiculous for the past 4 months now at this point. Number 1, who would have thought?
It's those Milwaukee Brewers, man. They're always in the hunt, and you can't put them away ever. But it's for real this time, because they just ripped off another 10 in a row. And, man, they really just manhandled the Braves and the Mets last week. They lose Jackson Chourio. They lose Jacob Mizorowski. But so many guys have stepped up, like Andrew Vaughn, Quinn Preister, even Isaac Collins. So they just got a guy for every situation. And why would you not want to root for this team? It's been an awesome story.
Yeah, number 1, the Milwaukee Brewers, they move up 5 spots in my rankings. They go 18-4 during this stretch. A 3.38 ERA is first in the big leagues. A 134 WRC plus is second in the big leagues. And they're doing it without any superstar. I know people like Miz, and maybe in a year from now you can consider him a superstar once he gets some more MLB service time under his belt. But there's not an MVP candidate on this team. There's not really a Cy Young candidate on this team. There's just a bunch of dudes playing good baseball in the middle of Wisconsin, and that's pretty special. Best record in baseball by 5 games right now. Winners of 10 in a row. It feels like every other week they're rattling off a cricket number win streak. It's pretty ridiculous to watch this Brewers team play. They in an era of exit velocity and hit homers and bat speed and stuff. They're like a win for, I don't know,
Moneyball.
like those old dudes on Twitter who just like say like, oh, extra velocity is nothing. Like you don't need to throw hard. You just got to be a gamer. And the Brewers have about like 45 different dudes that are gamers in their system. And they've utilized all 45 of them. And will they keep it up in this, quote unquote, like Linsanity run through October? I don't know. But at this point, it doesn't feel like it'd be that shocking if they were the team hoisting not the Lombardi, but the the World Series trophy. I wish they had a better name.
Yeah.
Commissioner's Trophy, is that what they technically call it?
I believe so.
Yeah, we don't need to call it the Commissioner's Trophy. We need a better name for that.
The Jeter.
But yeah, the Milwaukee Brewers, the Jeter. Yeah, okay. The Robin Yount Award. No. But the Milwaukee Brewers, number 1. Maybe they'll call it the Robin Yount Award if they keep winning.
If they win it, yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, that does it for our top 15 power rankings. We're getting into some fantasy football here for the first time this year. We are doing sleepers at each position, 5 at each: QB, running back, wide receiver. And since you don't want to hear 5 sleeper tight ends, because that's kind of boring, we're only going to do 2 or 3 for there, depending on how we felt. Like I said at the beginning of the show, this is kind of based off of ESPN's rankings for PPR. So if you're curious on what their original rankings are. You can just go look that up on their websites. That way we had a universal like bookmark for where these guys are originally at. And we'll get into that now. So starting with the QB position, who's your first guy? We'll go bar for bar here.
Okay. So yeah, just like before we start here, obviously, if you're in a 2-quarterback league, this isn't going to happen for you, but just try to think of guys who are outside of that top 12. So I'm going to start off with my number 5, Justin Fields, QB 14 on ESPN. And trust me, I know how this sounds. I'm aware of the situation. He hasn't started a whole lot of games, but when it comes to fantasy football, sometimes it's more about the opportunity than your actual skill. Justin Fields is going to run the ball a ton this season. That alone could get him in the top 10 over a guy like Baker.
And number 12 for me, or number 1 for me, is the number 12 ranked guy that I think can have, legitimate top 5, 6, 7. Oh God, I just said the name. Potential. That's Caleb Williams. You get Ben Johnson into the system. You get another year comfortable with Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, all these targets that you now have for a year in Chicago. And we saw, no slander to Jared Goff, but Jared Goff he's not a very talented quarterback, I would say. And Caleb Williams definitely has quite a bit more talent than Jared Goff. And once Jared got that Ben Johnson offense down, he rolled. And I think we could see that from Caleb Williams rather quickly. I think we're looking at a potential top 7 quarterback in fantasy football, and he's ranked at number 12. Who's your next guy?
All right. My number 4 biggest sleeper quarterback is going to be Cam Ward from Tennessee, QB 23 on ESPN. A lot of mixed reviews on Cam Ward so far, but back to opportunity. Cam Ward should have a lot of free range there to make big plays down the field. There's no backup to worry about in Tennessee. He was the number 1 pick for a reason. It's not a consolation prize. This guy's going to be out there making big plays. So if you're in a situation where you got to pick somebody up, this is going to be an option.
The next guy I have is the 13th ranked guy that I also think has opportunity to be a top 5 guy, and that's Dak Prescott. Every single year that he's been healthy and been on the field for the Cowboys, he throws the shit out of the ball. They added George Pickens. CeeDee Lamb is healthy. They still don't have a running back, so that's not going to be a problem. They're going to throw the ball 40 times a game. I feel like, and it's not like they completely overhauled the offense as well too with Mike McCarthy gone. They just brought in the OC, so it's practically the same system there still. So Dak Prescott, I think, is a guy that can legitimately be a top 5 quarterback. He's ranked at 13 right now, and I like the upside there. What's your next guy?
All right, my number 3 sleeper quarterback is going to be Justin Herbert. And I checked. He's ranked outside the top 10 on every single site. So I will consider him a sleeper, even though, of course, everybody knows who Justin Herbert is. And you may not agree with me as a Raider fan, but I could see the Chargers actually trying to push the ball down the field with Herbert's arm strength in year 2 with Harbaugh, just because he obviously has a great connection with Keenan Allen, who's coming back. And now Ladd McConkey, Najee had a weird injury, so maybe they are forced to throw the ball anyways. So that should be a guy to keep your eye on if you start slipping down the board.
My next sleeper here is ranked 24th. It's going to be Michael Penix. He's got so many different weapons around him that I think it's just kind of hard to ignore. Is he going to be a guy that, runs in 10 touchdowns for you? No. But I could see a realistic scenario where he throws up for 30 touchdowns. Has a good ratio, touchdown interception, puts up a ton of yards. You just got playmakers all around him. And I think when you have so many guys like that, it just makes the possibility for the QB to have a higher ceiling there. And Michael Penix could be a QB1, could be a fringe, just right outside of that. But I think at 24, he's definitely a guy that will come into fantasy value at some point in the year. Next guy.
My number 2 guy is going to be Drake May, QB 15 on ESPN. And as a Jets fan, I hope he's not a future superstar, but all of the signs point to a breakout season, really strong arm, great athlete, a way more trustworthy coaching staff, and also another guy with better weapons, Travion Henderson, Stephon Diggs, even Kyle Williams, a potential sleeper himself. Maybe not talk about him today, but a rookie out of Washington State. Anyways, Drake May, definitely on a breakout candidate list.
Yeah, something to note with my list. I'm not really doing it in numerical order.
Okay.
It's just 5 total sleepers. So this guy, I'm not saying is the number 2 sleeper because it is Geno Smith. Maybe biased for me as well too. Number 25 ranking right now in ESPN fantasy football. And we've seen years in the past where Geno Smith has put up some really good fantasy years. And I think if you look at the cast around him, it's debatably worse in previous years than it is this year. He's got an all-pro tight end in Brock Bowers. He's got a Pro Bowl level wide receiver, I'd say, Jacoby Myers. He's got deep threats around him in Trey Tucker and Dante Thornton. He's got Ashton Genty that he can give the ball to and use in the passing game as well too. Michael Mayer, he's just got guys all around him that I think I trust. And I could see Geno Smith being a fringe QB1 guy once the season's all said and done. And then our last fantasy sleeper.
Yeah. I'm going to go with CJ Stroud. His ADP on ESPN is 144 right now. He'll be ranked somewhere 15 to 20 when you draft. So at the end of the draft, for a guy who was the number 9 fantasy quarterback as a rookie, pretty good. I think CJ and the Texans had a pretty rough sophomore slump, yet they still won 10 games in their division. I think these guys got it figured out. So I'm going to bet on them scoring a lot of points this season.
Yeah, I'm going the same direction. CJ Stroud, like you said, number 19 on the list right now on ESPN Fantasy. Nico Collins is still there, and whenever Nico Collins is healthy, he tends to put up big numbers. I know Stephon Diggs is gone now. Tank Dell's still recovering from injury. But CJ Stroud has turned so many different guys into this guy, maybe I could stream him for a fantasy game wide receiver wise. I'm blanking on the guy that he did that. Noah Brown, that's who it was, who just seemed to have big game after big game for some reason last year. I trust CJ Stroud to be another guy that's like a fringe QB1, anywhere from 9 to 13, I'd say. And at number 19, I like the value for that, for him to be a decent starting QB in fantasy.
For sure.
On to the running backs, which is a lot of people's make or break in their leagues.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we go ahead and get started with the first guy you got?
All right. I do have an honorable mention because, like you said, running backs are the make or break. I couldn't leave this guy off. Kyle Monangai, Rutgers rookie, plays for the Bears. Bears really need a power back, and he's ranked like RB 75. So just keep an eye on him. Pick him up week 2 or something if he starts playing well. But we'll start it off with a simple one. Tyler Algier. It's a simple handcuff for Brian Robinson. Bijan Robinson. Because Algier is one of the few backups who can handle a massive workload if called on. And he's played that David Montgomery role for the Falcons. It's possible. I think this is one of the best handcuffs in football.
Yeah. I'm one same decision here. RB 49 right now, Tyler Algier. Even if Bijan doesn't get hurt, I still think there's 7 to 10 touches a game for him. And if Bijan, does have to miss a game or God forbid, miss an extended period of time, Algier immediately becomes like a RB1 type guy, or not one total, but RB1 through 12 type guy, just with the volume. And we've seen him before kind of, eat into Bijan's carries and, maybe be upset if you're from a Bijan or a Bijan owner. But I think Algier, when you're looking at 49, the names around him, like Roshan Johnson, Garundaro, Jaden Blue, Algier's got, legitimate possibility to be a guy that wins you your fantasy league.
Mm-hmm.
On to the next one.
Number 4 for me is going to be Caleb Johnson of the Steelers. Of course, it's a rookie, right? Rookies are the most overlooked guys when it comes to fantasy football. And if you remember back from the draft, I was a little skeptical of Caleb Johnson's ceiling. But luckily for him, that doesn't really matter when it comes to fantasy football when you're a power back. And similar to Najee Harris, if he's good on the goal line, those extra touchdowns could take him from RB28 to RB12, just like that. And I'm not really worried about Jalen Warren either. So I get it. If you're in a situation where you need a guy who is a starter to be your RB2, Caleb Johnson's an option.
My next sleeper, not super deep. The rest of the guys aren't super deep here. Chuba Hubbard, he's ranked 19th right now. And in Carolina last year, he was putting up points, and he was putting up a ton of touches week in, week out. And I think everybody can definitively say that Carolina team got better from last year. And when you look at it, they're not going to be as down in games as much. They're having to throw the ball. They're going to be in games more, needing to run the ball more, and relying on Chuba. And I think he can legitimately be a top-end RB1 once the season's done because of the volume that he's expected to have in Carolina this year.
For sure.
Next one.
Number 3, I'm going to do the complete opposite of you and go with Brashard Smith, Kansas City. The Kansas City rookie was so far down the board, I had to go to a different site to find his ranking, which was RB 74. This guy was a great receiver at SMU, and I can't imagine Kansas City sticking with Pacheco and Kareem Hunt in those late game situations. And because he was a late round pick, you probably don't even need to draft him unless he goes for 100 yards in the next preseason game. So that's why it intrigues me so much, is nobody even knows who this guy is yet.
I don't know most of those guys don't. I know who he is. SMU, of course, was pretty good there, but fantasy, those guys aren't even on my radar at this point. But 18 for me, or the next guy for me, is going to be ranked number 18. It's Breece Hall, and I know you like this. I like it because of the running option with Justin Fields. That's something that we've never really seen in the Jets offense with Breece Hall. Now that you have that, you just have the extra guy that's not going to be looking for Breeze, and instead looking for Justin Fields on read option plays and such. Breeze going into year, what is it, 3 or 4?
Year 4.
Year 4 now at this point. I think he's ready for pause the big load.
Yep.
And I think we could see him, get 300 touches. He's still a good receiver as well, too. Something I think is pretty undervalued for him as well. And Justin Fields, who's sometimes had trouble getting it to the check down. Maybe in that Aaron Glenn offense is being said, hey, you got this guy right next to you. Use him when you can, as we've seen Breece Hall be used before.
Yep, just the injuries
18,
with Breece.
Of course, but top 10 upside for sure. Next one.
All right, number 2 is a dual pick here. I'm going Tank Bigsby / Bashal Tutin. Basically, I don't trust Travis Etienne, whether it's the hamstring, the shoulder, the fumbles, the mentality. I think it's a great package for those teams that have that massive running back injury, or if you remember Ian's team last year, if you don't want to start Rico Dowdle, then maybe you should combine these two guys. Tank is ranked in the 40s, so there's a real shot that he gets a shot out there. He's kept his 4.5 yards per carry over his career. And Tutin ranked just outside the top 50. Some ridiculous speed, and 4th round pick in the most recent draft class. So just thinking of a handcuff to the handcuff, just in case they pull the string out on Travis Etienne.
Number 2 for me, or the second to last guy that we'll do, is ranked number 25 on ESPN right now. It's Travion Henderson of the New England Patriots. This guy was a 7 yards per carry rusher at Ohio State. Big play after big play when he got the ball. Passing useful as well too. Obviously, the NFL's not the NCAA, and it's going to be a bit different for him. But this guy's got legitimate ability to make guys miss. Super talented, super quick and agile as well too. So Travion Henderson, I don't think he's going to get a ton of touches, but he could be a guy that we see maybe not as good, but kind of like a baby Jahmyr Gibbs in the fact that, whenever this guy touches the ball, he's got a chance to take it to the end zone. And I think even in the rookie year for Jahmyr Gibbs, even where he didn't get the ball a ton, it was like, okay, this guy's getting 7 carries, but he might get, 65 yards on those carries, adding a touchdown, adding a couple, catch or pass catches. Jeez, I don't know why that was so tough for me to say. And you got, 15, 16-point games coming to you back to back from him. So I think there's real fringe RB1 side with him. And now on to our last guy.
Yeah, I hope we're not picking near each other, because my number 1 sleeper today is Travion Henderson. Once again, yes, I hate the Patriots, but I've always thought that Henderson was a future superstar just waiting to happen. And, you combine that with a defensive-minded head coach, Mike Vrabel, a struggling Ramondre Stevenson, and you got this year's Chase Brown. Not to mention, it felt like he was taking a screen pass to the house every single Saturday with the Buckeyes. So he's currently RB25. I agree. I like him.
Yeah. This next sleeper, he's not a sleeper at all because he's ranked RB7. But I think there's a legitimate chance that he gets to number 1. And I don't know why he's ranked this low. Because if he's healthy, he's going to be at least top 3. It's Derrick Henry. Like, this guy year in, year out just gets the ball and runs and has no problem running guys over. We saw last year in Baltimore, he was just a machine. We thought he'd perhaps slow down again later into his years, but I don't see it being any problem for him again this year. He's just such a different breed when it comes to running back. And I think he's withstood the test of time that I'm not worried about injuries and stuff with him. He could get the ball 30 times a game, all 17 games, and I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. So Derrick Henry, I think, has a legitimate chance to be RB1 when it's all said and done, and that's why I put him as a sleeper.
It seems like he's always like right before the draft, he's ranked like top of the second round, and everyone's like, wait, really?
Yeah,
am I missing something?
I don't get it. We saw it last year and won a ton of people their leagues, that's for sure. But moving into wide receivers now, which is fun as well too. Starting off with any honorable mentions that you have? I don't have any, but
I didn't.
I'll let you go first.
I don't want to give up too much, Kyle. You got to pay for that.
Fair.
No, I'm kidding. We'll start off with Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver 53 on ESPN. And similar to Travion Henderson, we've watched these guys a bunch over the years. And these Ohio State guys are so well-rounded, they're not specialty players. So even though Egbuka's in a pretty crowded room, Baker loves to spread it out, air it out, 5 wide. I think he's going to get a shot. Rookies are always undervalued. This guy's also a very good run blocker. I think it's going to be hard to take him off the field once he does get on.
First one for me, I don't know why I keep on saying numbers. I'm in power rankings mode. But it's number 45. It's Ricky Pearsall. And that's because he seems like the only San Francisco wide receiver that is healthy at this point in the season. I know they still have George Kittle, and Christian McCaffrey's going to get his fair share of receiving work as well too. But Pearsall seems to be, I'd say, like a wide receiver 1, at least for the first 6 to 8 weeks of the year because of Brandon Ayuk being out and Jawan Jennings going through all the stuff he's going through. So I think Pearsall could be that wide receiver 1 for them for at least the first half of the year. And if he plays well there, I don't think there's a chance that they take him out of that role either. So I think Ricky Pearsall has, mid wide receiver 2, I'd say, upside. And when you look at number 45 right now on the preseason rankings, you'd be okay with that if you took him with where his current ADP is. Who's your next one?
My next one's going to be George Pickens of the Cowboys, wide receiver 31, and he's a little bit of a head case, but that may be perfect for Dallas. We'll see. The running back issue never really got solved there, so Dak is going to probably have to keep throwing 50 times a game. This is a high-end wide receiver 2, and he could be available in like the 6th round, so that's pretty good for a guy who could be getting like 8 targets a game.
Yeah, I was going to go do somebody else, but since you said it, I'll go George Pickens here as well, too. The upside is so there this year. Like, going into Dallas's offense where it's not Pittsburgh, where it's cold and rainy and disgusting territory to play in all the time. 2, you have Dak Prescott and not Justin Fields or, whoever's been in Pittsburgh for the last, 5 years since Big Ben has been gone. And Dallas loves to throw the football, man. Like, I know I said it earlier, Dak Prescott, and maybe there's some like, oh shit, Mike McCarthy isn't there anymore. They're not going to be doing 5 wide. Like, they still are. Like, it's the Dallas Cowboys, man. They don't have a fucking running back. So George Pickens is, like you said, he's going to get a large target share for being a wide receiver 2. And I think there's, good chance he puts up wide receiver like 10 to 15 type numbers once it's all said and done. Who's your next guy?
Going back to the rookies, I'm going Jaden Higgins of the Texans. The Texans rookie is ranked 55 right now, right near Egbuka, but I think he has a much clearer role than Egbuka. And thanks to the Tank Dell injury, that'll help there too. But really big body receiver. He's probably going to be the number two. And, Nico Collins has been hurt a lot over his career too. So you may see one of the biggest jumps in projected score of all season if Nico Collins does miss a few games. The Texans are another team with that questionable running game. So wide receiver 2 means a little bit more for those teams, I think.
Going back down a little bit in rankings, I'm going to Cooper Kupp at number 43. And I just feel like he's going to be the safe guy for Sam Darnold this year. Going into a new offense for both of them, Cooper Kupp's the guy that's always seems like he was there for Matthew Stafford, whether that was short, long, medium, like quick, long. Like it was always just there for him and Matthew Stafford. And I don't think it was, super much like a Devontae or Rodgers type connection where they just like were inside of each other's brains. I think Cooper Kupp just knew what to do so well, and I think he's probably picked up so much with Sam Darnold in the short time that they've been together. And Sam Darnold realizing, hey, this guy's going to be there for me all the time. I think we do still see 6 to 8 target share a game from him. And when you're that guy like Cooper Kupp and you have the ability to make plays after as well too, I think there's a real chance that he becomes a wide receiver 2 in fantasy leagues.
Yeah.
Now on to our final 2 wide receivers.
Yeah, you're going to like this one. I got Jacoby Myers on the list. Jacoby was wide receiver 18 last year after Devontae Adams left, not to mention some questionable quarterback play too. So getting him at wide receiver 36 with a gunslinger like Geno Smith could be a massive steal. So I like this one.
Yeah. These last 2 guys aren't super sleepers, but I definitely think I value them higher than what they were originally slotted. Number 19, Mike Evans, is the first guy I'm going to talk about here. This guy is the most consistent wide receiver we've ever seen in the history of the game, perhaps. And I don't see any reason why that's going to change this year. I definitely think he's, wide receiver 9 to 13 type area instead of where he's at 19 right now. I know, Emeka Ibuka's in there, and I think Ibuka is still going to be good. And I think Chris Godwin's going to be good as well, too. I just think Baker loves to throw the ball so much that we could see him just chuck it nonstop. And it's worked for them in the past. I think it'll work for them again. And Mike Evans, obviously, super big red zone threat as well, too. He's a guy, touchdowns are a super volatile thing in fantasy football. One year you have 2, next year you have 12. I think when it comes to the consistent factor for that, he's probably the, one of the few guys that you can really rely on to score you 10 plus touchdowns a year. And then the last wide receiver that we have.
Yeah, my top guy is going to be Rome Odunze, wide receiver 35 for a guy who projects to be a pretty high tier wide receiver 2 now that Keenan Allen is gone. And I would imagine he has some pretty good chemistry with Caleb Williams coming from the same draft class. And I think they're going to eventually figure it out with Ben Johnson there. The theme, again, here, of course, is you got a questionable running back. You got a quarterback that likes to extend plays, throw the ball down the field, Caleb Williams. Could be a risky thing, but hey, man, wide receiver 35, it's not that risky.
Yeah. And the same kind of scenario here for me is what I did for my last one. He's ranked number 11, but I think there's legitimate top 3 upside as a wide receiver this year. It's Ladd McConkey going into year 2 with LA. Last year, you have the initial rookie just getting into the swing of things. First couple of games, you're trying to figure out what they're good at, what they're not good at. But by the end of the year, we saw Ladd McConkey's not just that short little white slot receiver. He can do it all as that guy. And I think Justin Herbert really found that out as they got in later into the season as well too. LA didn't really do much in terms of wide receivers. I know they got Trey Harris, but hasn't really impressed, I'd say, in camp from what I've seen. I guess I know they just got Keenan Allen back a little bit, so maybe that eats into his target share a little bit, perhaps, because there's obviously some chemistry between Herbo and Allen. But McConkey, I think, has a chance to be a top 5 to 3 wide receiver in fantasy this year, and everybody that I'm seeing ranking has him outside of the top 10, debatably even a wide receiver too. So McConkey could be a ultimate league winner
here.
Yeah. On to tight ends. We're not doing 5 tight ends because that would be too much. We'd be digging into the linemen. I have 2. Do you have two or do you got
I have
three?
two with an honorable mention.
All right, you go ahead first. Give me your honorable mention and
Yeah.
then your number two.
Okay. So I have Zach Ertz as an honorable mention. I didn't rank him because I know I could have just called him three, but I don't think I would draft him. I think it's more of like something goes horribly wrong with a tight end you drafted early and you don't have a backup. Because Zach Ertz is still kicking. They still use him a lot. Somehow is still like the number two option in that offense. So good for Zach Ertz. But the real guy here, number two, is Tyler Warren, tight end 13. He did a bunch of different stuff for Penn State. And as soon as he starts getting rushing touchdowns in the NFL, he's going to be a must start in every fantasy league. Not to mention, pretty good safety valve for whoever is playing quarterback for those guys.
My first sleeper tight end is ranked 21 right now. It's Darren Waller back in Miami. And yeah, maybe it's cheesy to say, maybe he just isn't there physically. And we can see that be a thing with him. But when this guy's right, we know how good he is. And with what we saw with Johnny Smith in Miami's offense last year, even with, Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, Darren Waller can put up some serious numbers. I think he's way more talented than Johnny Smith is as well, too. And when you combine those two things, and Mike McDaniels love to get playmakers the ball in their hands in space, like Darren Waller's pretty much exactly that as a tight end. So I think we could see a really good year from him in his return to the NFL. And then the other tight end that you got.
Yeah, this guy, I already know that Brett really likes him. And there's probably many more once the season starts. That's Brenton Strange from Jacksonville. And for the same reason Evan Ingram always went earlier than he was ranked in the draft is because Strange is a great athlete. He was a high draft pick. Jacksonville doesn't have a lot of options, and availability is the best ability. We don't know how much Travis Hunter actually is going to play on offense. And he's shockingly tight end number 23 right now. For the guy who may be the only red zone threat on this team, that seems like a pretty good deal to me.
My next sleeper, Kyle Pitts. No, I couldn't do it. I couldn't pull myself to do it. But another Lad McConkey type scenario where this guy's ranked pretty high, but I do think there's a chance that he sneaks into the top five in the position. That's Evan Ingram going over to Denver this past year. Now in a different system with Bo Nix, but outside of him and Cortland Sutton, like, there's still not too many options for Bo Nix to throw the ball to. And we saw him, Bo Nix, that is just kind of, I don't know, he's a bit edgy and aggressive, I would say, as a quarterback. And I think Evan Ingram kind of fits that mold of that would be a good guy in that system. So I think there is that top five upside with him. He's obviously saw a ton of targets in Jacksonville. I don't know if we'll see, 100 catch season from him like we did in the past, but I think we could get to a 75 to 80 catch season, close to 1,000 yards, a couple touchdowns in there as well too, which would give you a season on par with a TJ Hawkinson or Sam Laporta or Njoku or whoever that may be.
Yeah.
All right.
That was fun.
So those are our fantasy football sleepers. We will erase each other's memory as we head into our fantasy football drafts here in a couple weeks. But yeah, Skylar's got some second half stuff that we'll get into, and we'll go into the bets after that.
Yeah, a little bit of preseason talk just because we haven't really talked football on here in a while. And there were a couple injuries to really big names that are going to impact not only fantasy football, but just the way every team operates this year. And specifically, when I say that, I'm talking Rayshon Slater, Chargers, patellar tendon out for the season. They're already talking about insurance if this is a career ender. So just a horrible situation for the Chargers. Feel terrible for them. That's the best player on their team, man. And they're not going to have him this year. I'm sure you have some feelings about that too, but we don't need to get into that.
I mean, I'll say that's a big one for the Chargers. Yeah. I saw that. I was eating lunch in Hawaii when I saw that news, and I was like, oh, like that's something that will impact your year greatly. Usually you see these little preseason injuries, and it could be whatever. But that's definitely one that isn't whatever. That's a legitimate excuse for Charger fans if their year goes bad that they didn't have their left tackle because he's legit. He's absolutely dominant. And I know, is he still playing left tackle with Oh my
I think
gosh,
he
the
was
guy
at.
from Notre Dame that they got
Oh,
last year.
Alt. Joe
Alt's
Alt.
playing.
Yeah.
Is he playing left or right? I don't know. If he wasn't playing left before, now Alt's definitely gonna be playing
Yeah.
left.
Yeah.
So pretty crazy there with Rashawn Slater out for the year.
Oh yeah. Another scare the other night with the Eagles was Landon Dickerson. Their guard just got a massive extension. Went down with the knee, just like Slater. Luckily for them, it was the meniscus. He's probably only going to miss a couple weeks, but still a big one for an O lineman. That one sucks. Same with another former Raider here, Nate Hobbs. Went down in practice with a knee. I think it's like a 4 to 6 week thing. So that'll be it for the defensive guys. A couple more offensive guys. Matt Stafford hurt his back. Sean McVay's been saying for like 2 months, like, don't worry, he'll be at practice tomorrow, and he still isn't there. So it makes me think that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be starting the first week.
Yeah, that's. I mean, first off, a couple points here. Like the injuries
Yeah.
in preseason are such a gamble. It's very much obviously fan perspective. Like we have nothing to do with it. It's just watching what happens. But for the injuries in the preseason, man, it's just like I honestly just wish the team just doesn't even practice. They just all do virtual stuff. They can watch on their computers, but stay in bubble wrap. Don't get hurt, and we'll see you come week one. But the Matthew Stafford thing feels like super fishy. Because like you said, like there's been ESPN reports every single day. Stafford will practice tomorrow. If it comes the next morning, Matthew Stafford in street clothes once
Yeah.
again, like wearing his backwards Dodger hat, like he always does. But like I'm worried this guy's gonna miss the season.
Isn't this kind of how
That's
McCaffrey was last year?
like this feels like it's something like, no, he'll be fine. No, he'll be fine. From the front office and the GM and the head coach. And then it comes down to week one, and like, oh shit, like, yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo is starting. Next thing you know, Jimmy Garoppolo is actually starting weeks 1 through 17 for this team, and I think that's a very legitimate thing to worry about with the Rams, and obviously, bleeds into fantasy with drafting Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, guys like that. Like, we've seen Jimmy G and Devontae before. We know what that looks like. And obviously, you don't want to talk fantasy when you're talking about real people getting hurt in the real world, but it definitely weighs into, millions of people across America.
For sure. The one other big thing that happens every single preseason is those wide receiver lower half injuries. Justin Jefferson is a guy that's been dealing with the hammy for about 3 years. He's been able to play through it mostly, but it's just another one to keep an eye on. Maybe you don't take him over Jamar Chase. I don't know. After that, who knows? And then some other guys that are a little more concerning. I mean, Jaden Reed's already hurt his ankle again, and he was injured last year. Same with Khalil Shakir of the Bills, Jawan Jennings of the Niners. So just wide receiver twos that I probably wouldn't draft in fantasy if they're still injured from last year. All right, that's it for that. One more thing I have before we get out of here. Just a couple of rookie quarterbacks I wanted to mention. I was watching preseason all weekend, so I got a couple opinions on some of these guys. Cam Ward, 5 for 8, 67 yards, just one drive. Like I said earlier, I got no complaints on Cam Ward. Him and Calvin Ridley look like a pretty nice duo already. The next guy, Jackson Dart, played a little more than Cam Ward, 12 for 19, 154, and a touchdown. And only a half. Looked pretty good. I think Dart versus Russ is going to be more interesting than I anticipated. I just figured Jackson Dart get that redshirt year, but Jackson Dart's got a cannon, man. So we'll see. Similar with Tyler Shuck, right? 160 yards and a half. Bad pick six early, but then he comes back strong with a deep touchdown pass. I would lean towards Shuck over Spencer Rattler so far. And then the last guy, of course, we have to mention Shadur Sanders. 14 for 23, 138, 2 touchdowns. It was a really fun game. We saw the good, the bad, and the ugly from Shadur, but he didn't turn the ball over. Even though he did that thing where he keeps fading backwards on 4th and 1 and run around in circles, he made sure to throw the ball away or to his receiver. He got better as the game went on. So it's interesting. I don't expect him to play or anything. I think that was total BS when ESPN is like, should he start over Flacco this year? Like, dude, he's like quarterback 5 on the depth chart still. Relax. But it's a great start. And those are the rookie quarterbacks that I want to talk about.
Yeah, I'll hit on Ashton Genty real quick because that's obviously something that we saw Actually didn't end up seeing any of his carries. He had 3 carries for -1 yard. But I saw people saying he's like a bust, and
Yeah.
like people were like, "Well, we're trolling him with that stat line." I'm like, dude, as long as he's healthy, he can have a carry for -99 yards, and I'd be okay with it. Like, it does not matter what he's doing right now. I have zero doubt about the talent with him. That's going to be a problem. As long as he stays healthy, things are happy and things are good in my world as far as Ashton Jetty goes.
Yeah, like 3 carries. Come on, guys. You could do better than that. To the fans, not to the Raiders.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. You could do less than that, Raiders, if you want.
Yes.
If you want to give him 0 carries, that's okay. Layups full predictions though, as we get into that. Last week I didn't choose anything. Skyler went 2 for 2 in his picks. In his layup, he had Milwaukee over Washington on Sunday. It kind of feels like a cheat code when you pick Milwaukee now at this point because they haven't lost in 2 weeks, it feels like. This week, I have the San Diego Padres over the Giants on Wednesday. The Giants starter has not been announced yet, but that is Nick Pivetta for the Padres. He's been great this year. Giants don't score a lot of runs. Padres don't allow a lot of runs. We saw that happen last night in Logan Webb's start. And I think we can see it happen again tomorrow when they're facing Pivetta. So the Padres over the Giants on Wednesday.
I'm going with a game on Friday night, Chicago Cubs over the Pirates. Colin Reyes starting that one. Not sure about Pittsburgh yet, but if it's not Paul Skeens, I'm good with that. The Cubs should score a bunch of runs against Pittsburgh.
Last week, bold prediction, didn't have anything. Skyler, his bold prediction was Miami over the Yankees on Sunday. Miami swept that series. So good job to Skyler there. This week, I have Miami over Cleveland on Wednesday. That is Gavin Williams' first start since his no-hit bid versus Yuri Perez, who's been really good for the Miami Marlins this year. They've been a sleeper. They've had a rough past week. Cleveland's had a good past week. So I'm going to pick the underdog here and take Miami to win this one.
All right. Well, this week, the Dodgers are hosting San Diego for the first time in what feels like forever, and I'm super excited to watch this series, and I don't think – San Diego is going to be very happy to see Clayton Kershaw. So I'm going to have him getting the win on Friday night. Michael King's been spectacular this season. I haven't taken down Kershaw. They got to get at least one of those. They know they're right there. They're not too far away from them now. I believe they're only 1 game back. So this is a massive series.
Yeah. They play this weekend, and I believe they play the next weekend as well, too. So some good baseball coming up over these next few weekends. As we get closer to September and then October baseball is right upon us. I did see that they announced that the playoff schedule and the first playoff games are on September 30th, which I don't really like.
What?
Just make October baseball be October baseball, man. Like, fucking. Like, I remember the A's 2014. Like our shirt said like October ready or something like that, and we were eliminated on the last day of September. So it's like what the fuck? But anyways, that does it for episode 256. We'll see you guys next week for episode 257. That'll be fun. Maybe we get into fantasy football again. Maybe we get into normal football outside of fantasy football and talk some other stuff there as we inch closer to the season. And closer to the college football season as well, too. Wearing a UH hat today, even though Stanford opens up against them. But yeah,
it's for the
football
vibes.
season
it's all good.
Is happening. Yeah. The vibes, bro. The vibes.
Oh, yeah. I will say before we get out of here, bring back game 163. Maybe that'll help with the September 30th nonsense.
I would like that. Game 163. And you know what? Why not add a game 164? Let's do it.
Love it. We'll see you next week.